So probably a lot of you guys have heard the audio recording from my so-called friend, Mr. Mark Boyd. He's just released on his Instagram, YouTube, whoever else he sent it to. So I thought I'd better come on here and address it to you.
What the main thing for me is I just want to know, what is he thinking not going there without calling and excusing himself in any way, shape, or form? Mm-hmm. That's the only thing that bothers me a little bit right now, because, you know, something could have happened. Yes, something could have happened.
All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. Again, we've got some very interesting things to discuss in this video, a couple of interesting stories, I guess you could say. We're going to talk more about the world's strongest man corruption allegations, Luke Stoltman's response. We got some big Ramy stuff to talk about, but first let's take it a little bit slow. We're going to talk about the competitor list that was just released for this weekend's California Pro, which is the next upcoming men's open bodybuilding show that's also a qualifier for the Mr. Olympia. So here is the list that was posted. You've got Tonio Burton, Douglas Frucci, Charles Griffin, Peter Clancier, Theo Laguerrier, Andre Muzi, Andrea Presti, Christopher Robinson, and Mohammed Shaban. So obviously the standouts to me there are Charles Griffin, who was runner-up at the Indy Pro, Andrea Presti, who was runner-up at the New York Pro, right behind Blessing Awodabu, right in front of Max Charles and Justin Rodriguez, Mohammed Shaban, who we have not seen compete in some time, and of course Peter Clancier, who was not able, he was on the competitor list for both the Indy Pro and the New York Pro, but he was not able to get to either one of those shows because of, I guess, issues with his visa, I think was the specific travel reason that he gave. So I guess it still remains up for debate whether or not he's going to make it to California, but hopefully he does, because I honestly think that in either of those lineups, just based on what we've seen from him on social media, I think he would have been very competitive and probably at a minimum top 6 potential, top 4 potential. But right now I'm looking at this lineup and I'm thinking about Charles Griffin, and I'm thinking Charles looks like a really strong candidate here to finally take home a victory and to earn an Olympia qualification through a win. But I also have no doubt that Andrea Presti will be pressing him based on what we saw from Andrea at the New York Pro, which was, I think, very impressive. Now, next up in the news, let's get straight into the juicy stuff here. So Big Ramy. A lot of people have been talking about Big Ramy over the course of the last few weeks, ever since the Pittsburgh Pro, where obviously, as you can see here, Big Ramy was on the poster. He was kind of the main attraction as advertised for the Pittsburgh Pro. A lot of people went to that show undoubtedly just to see Big Ramy. He's the reigning 2-time Mr. Olympia, arguably the most popular bodybuilder on that poster right now because of his competitive track record. And he did not show up. And what we found out this week was that he did not show up at the last minute. So I actually made a comment about this. We're going to talk about some of the things that Dennis James recently said about Big Ramy that a lot of people have been talking about. He said this on his podcast a couple days ago. But Buys and Tries had put up a post. It's an Instagram page that I follow that a lot of you guys probably follow as well, discussing the fact that Big Ramy didn't show up to Pittsburgh. And I made a comment, that he did the same thing with the Arnold Classic, because that's true. He was supposed to be at the Arnold Classic to do a photo op where fans could take a picture with him, pay to take a picture with him, and he was going to be compensated to do that. Ramy pretty much blew that off as well, and when I made that comment, a lot of people were mad and thought I was hating on Ramy when I was just pointing out, this isn't the first time he's done that. So I'm kind of curious to get your guys' thoughts in the comment section below before we dive into this. What are your thoughts about Ramy not showing up to events? But more specifically, as we found out from Dennis James's podcast, not only did he not show up, he didn't let anybody know that he wasn't showing up. In fact, it wasn't until, I think Dennis said 2 days prior, that was the last time he talked to Ramy, and as of then, it was his understanding that Ramy was still going. In fact, Dennis only went to the Pittsburgh Pro to support Ramy because Ramy was supposed to be there. So let's listen to a few of these clips from Dennis James' most recent podcast.
Why wasn't he there?
I know, they don't know shit. Wasn't even there, don't know the fucking real shit, but trying to make up something.
Everybody has some stories, and I'm going through the internet to find out what happened, because I don't even know. I seriously don't know.
Yeah?
I don't know. I was there to support him because, we agreed that I'd come to Pittsburgh to help him out. I was there. He's the one that didn't show up.
He did a call me. He missed his flight.
Listen, all I know is that he's okay supposedly. So he's not. I haven't spoken to him. I reached out a couple of times he didn't respond, and I didn't hear nothing back. So I'm still waiting to hear from him to find out what really happened. I was asked maybe 100 times this weekend, and I had the same answer. I said, guys, I wish I would know, because I would tell you. Because at this point, right, I still don't know what happened. I still don't know. All I know is that I think that was a big mistake not to show up in Pittsburgh.
So walk us through it. Like, so when you was on your way there, you still thought he was going to be there?
Yeah, yeah. I thought, because he was supposed to land on Thursday night, and I told him, I said, listen, I'm catching a flight Thursday night, so I will arrive late. I will arrive Friday morning at 9. Everything was cool. And then when he didn't leave for that flight, I was told by someone who books his flights that they changed it to the next day. He will arrive Friday night, and that's the last I heard.
Yeah.
That's literally the last I heard.
Not good, man.
I don't even get a response from the people around him that I talked to. I still hope that he will contact me and fill me in what happened.
Do you think if he came in lights out, that won't affect him, or do you think it's going to affect him?
What the main thing for me is I just want to know, what is he thinking not going there without calling and excusing himself in any way, shape, or form. That's the only thing that bothers me a little bit right now, because something could have happened. Yes, something could have happened. He could have been in the hospital. We don't know, but the people around him should know. So when we know that this is not the case, so there had to be something else, and I don't know. I really don't. I'm disappointed. I'm kind of disappointed, and I was worried, to a point where, like, what's going on? Because I talked to him 3 days before the show. I said 2 days before he was supposed to leave. I said, listen, make sure you don't, everything is good. Don't miss your flight, because I know he missed a couple of flights here and there, by accident.
So there's a lot of interesting things that Dennis said here. What jumped out to me the most was the fact that Ramy did not let anybody know he wasn't going to show up, and the fact that someone as close to Ramy as Dennis, they're like really good friends, not only can't get a hold of Ramy now, but can't get a hold of anybody from Ramy's team, nor did Ramy or anyone from his team let Dennis know that he wasn't coming. And I believe Dennis said his last communication with Ramy was 2 days before, telling Ramy not to miss his flight, which doesn't really support the narrative. Some of the people that I've talked to, there's a bunch of different stories about what happened with Ramy, and right now all of it's really just rumors and speculation. The fact is, right now, nobody knows. Nobody knows but Ramy, really. Everybody that I've talked to has a different conspiracy of what happened. I even heard Brandon Curry say in an interview that he heard that Ramy was arrested at the airport. I don't know if there's any truth to that at all. The reason that I heard, with regards to both the reason that he missed the Arnold and the Pittsburgh Pro, was that his mother was sick and that he was taking care of his mother. Now, that doesn't really line up with the fact that Dennis is saying here that Ramy was going to do the Pittsburgh Pro and didn't show up at the last minute and didn't let anybody know and had a flight booked to come to the show. That to me suggests that maybe something happened right before Ramy came that was the reason why he didn't make it, but he didn't let anybody know. So what the real reason is, my understanding is, nobody knows. I've talked to a lot of people. Nobody knows for sure. No one seems to have be able to get a hold of Ramy, and everyone's got these different stories of what might have happened. But I've kind of got, I've got a theory that Ramy might not do the Olympia this year. This is just pure speculation. But from what he's been doing so far, Jim Mannion is the president of the IFBB. He's the one that's going to be presenting Ramy with that award on the Olympia stage. He blew off his show. He blew off the Arnold Classic. And again, for whatever reason, we don't really know for sure, so maybe he did have a good reason. But according to Dennis, he didn't even give Jim Mannion the courtesy of letting him know he wasn't going to be there. He didn't even give Dennis the courtesy of letting him know he wasn't going to be there, and Dennis traveled there for Ramy. In fact, Ramy's decision was so last minute and no one knew that Derek Lunsford, who stole the whole show, he was a last minute addition to Hunter, Nick, and Brandon. It was supposed to be Hunter, Nick, Brandon, and Ramy, but because Ramy didn't show up, they needed somebody else, and that's where Derek Lunsford came from. So ironically, the whole Derek Lunsford thing wasn't even planned. But look, there's a whole conversation with Ramy, right? The whole social media thing was one thing. Ramy doesn't really interact much. He doesn't really post a whole lot. He doesn't really post physique updates or that many training videos. Every once in a while he will, but he's not that engaging on social media. That's a whole separate conversation. But as an ambassador for not only bodybuilding, but specifically the Olympia, specifically the IFBB, to blow off these major events within his ambassadorship that he's representing and not even letting the people in charge know that he won't be there, I think to me might suggest he's not going to continue or try to defend his Olympia title, and maybe doesn't have interest in continuing an Olympia reign. And again, this is based on nothing specific. This is pure speculation, but it seems to me like he might not be interested in defending his title or continuing with this role as Mr. Olympia. And personally, I've just got this theory that we might not see him at the 2022 Mr. Olympia. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Again, I know this is a polarizing topic. Some people think that we're being too hard on Big Ramy for not showing up. A lot of people think he had a good reason. And other people kind of agree with Dennis James and kind of the overall sentiment that it's not a good look for him to be blowing off these events like this, especially when he doesn't even let people know. And especially from the fan point of view, like I said, I'm sure a lot of people showed up to that event, seeing Big Ramy's name on the poster, seeing his image on the poster. They went to see Ramy, and he disappointed those fans and didn't even let anybody know. Nor did he issue any statement afterwards apologizing. I think that's noteworthy as well. Not that he has to, but just as an ambassador, you would think maybe he would. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, the final story I want to address today, this is the big one. So obviously yesterday there was the bombshell recording of Luke Stoltman talking about to Mark Boyd, who's involved with a rival strongman organization to World's Strongest Man and Giants Live. His organization is called World's Ultimate Strongman, WUS. So essentially there was this recording with some allegations from Luke Stoltman about Giants Live, about World's Strongest Man, specifically about Colin Bryce. Colin Bryce is the guy that Hafthor Bjornsson accused of basically fixing the 2017 World's Strongest Man for Eddie Hall to win. Now, in this recording, what Luke said basically corroborated Thor's claims in saying that Colin Bryce told him that if him and Tom play ball, that they would be given easier events, essentially, at the World's Strongest Man, and that the World's Strongest Man competition itself would be crafted in a way to give them an advantage, is essentially what he said, if they played ball with Giants Live and Colin Bryce, which is exactly the story that Hafthor Bjornsson was purporting about the 2017 World's Strongest Man. This recording does support that. Now, I said when I reported on it yesterday, we should take it with a grain of salt because World's Ultimate Strongman is closely affiliated with Hafthor Bjornsson. There might be some bias there. They are a rival strongman organization, so again, there might be some bias there. And Luke Stoltman posted a response video. Granted, it was only 5 minutes long. It was titled The Truth. And in that video, he expresses basically his disappointment that this conversation was recorded by someone who he thought was his friend, Mark Boyd and Don Idries, who are both, I believe they're the two guys in charge of World's Ultimate Strongman. And he says basically they were trying to get him and Tom, to compete at a World's Ultimate Strongman event. And this conversation was in the context of him saying, no, I've got these obligations to Giants Live. He said he basically just didn't want to do the World's Ultimate Strongman event. And he says, essentially, he regrets some of the things he said, but he was just telling them what they, quote unquote, wanted to hear so he could just get out of doing their competition. And first and foremost, I agree with him. I think that it is shitty that if these guys were his friends or he thought they were his friends, that they would record this conversation without his knowledge. And I think the fact that they are in charge of a strongman organization and in charge of a strongman promotion and recording conversations with the athletes without their knowledge is an extremely bad look for their organization too. While this is very bad for World's Strongest Man and Giants Live and Colin Bryce specifically, I also think this is a bad look for World's Ultimate Strongman, and I don't want to understate that. Athletes are not going to want to compete for an organization that is secretly recording conversations with them. It's a bad look for them too, and I want that to be clear. Now, that being said, in Luke's response, he doesn't directly address ever the claim that the event would be shaped in favor for him and Luke, or for him and Tom rather, that the World's Strongest Man groupings in events would be manipulated in a way that favors the Stoltman brothers. He didn't address that part of it at all because that is the main corruption claim. That's what everybody's got an issue with. That's what people are pissed about because that corroborates what Hafthor said. That points to I mean, there's no way about it. That points to the World's Strongest Man being a fixed competition for the competitors that they want to win and the competitors that they want to promote and they think would be good ambassadors for the sport. Like he said in the clip, you know, they would be willing to, Giants Live and Colin Bryce, promote the Stoltman brand is what he said. And that points to, and he even said, like they did for Eddie Hall, like they did for the Beast brand. That suggests that the World's Strongest Man is picking winners based on who they think could favorably represent them in the sport. And I actually just got off a phone call not too long ago talking to somebody behind the scenes that he heard that there are sponsors that are very upset about this, sponsors of the World's Strongest Man, that are going to pull out. So yes, this information may have came about through shady means, but really, it's not really being disputed right now that something corrupt is happening and that events are being rigged, groupings are being fixed in favor of certain competitors, and that the winner is essentially being manipulated and predetermined. And there's a lot of people that are not happy about this. I haven't seen anybody dispute right now that the Stoltmans have been given a more favorable grouping and more favorable events at this year's World's Strongest Man to help them win. I haven't seen anybody dispute that yet, even in Luke's response. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This is a very touchy subject. You can go to Luke's channel and watch his full response. It's about 5 minutes long. You can go to Mark Boyd's Instagram and watch the full audio recording if you want. You can read some of the comments for further context. But certainly make no mistake about it, this does not look good for Giants Live, Colin Bryce, or World's Strongest Man as a competition. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet already. Click that bell notification icon. And as always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.